Welcome to the Josh Button Podcast, where we discuss health, wellness, and outliers from society. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Josh Button Podcast. Today is episode 64, and as you can see, I am joined by David Kirkland. He is the CEO of Gray Team here in Boca Raton, South Florida, and they have an absolute phenomenal facility, but an even better cause. They are literally saving lives of veterans. And I'm going to let you get into the description of everything you guys do, because I know I only spent a few hours there, and I was overwhelmed with all of the support you're garnering in the South Florida community, but also all of the lives that you're affecting positively, and how you're going about each and every individual just as an individual, and putting together an absolutely insane curriculum and all these modalities for them to apply, to use, to benefit from, both therapeutically and with whatever they're going through. So thanks for joining me first off, and tell us about your mission, how you came to Gray Team, and what the current standings are, where you guys are at, and what you're getting into next.
It's so nice to be on the podcast, Josh. Gray Team was founded by a U.S. Army veteran. His name is Kerry Reichbach, back in 2016, after going to funeral after funeral for when his fellow soldiers committed suicide. After a certain point of going to these funerals, you sense a sense of fear, a sense of disgust, the fact that there's nothing being done, and your friends, your family is slowly dying by their own hands. So he walked down a journey of self-healing, walked in their shoes to figure out what was the cause, what was the reason why so many military veterans here in the United States were committed suicide. So one day he was actually going home from an event, and there was a young Marine about to jump off a 4-story garage, willing to end it all, because he just came back from Afghanistan, from combat. His relationships was failing. He was in financial distress. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And the only path that he saw was to jump off this garage. Luckily, I believe in God. Many of your audience may or may not, but Kerry just happened to walk in on him about to do this act, and he stopped him, calmed him down, walked him off the edge, and they both went down this path of self-healing. They started getting into things such as transcendental meditation, sound therapy, flotation therapy, hyperbaric therapy, in order to heal not only their own bodies, but to find out what means of care is out there other than the pharmaceutical route, which they both were on thanks to the VA. Not saying that it's a bad thing, but when you're not healing or treating the underlying cause of why you're feeling a certain way, why you're still in pain, at some point, the emotional toll will set in, and suicide looks like more of an option. So this is where Gray Team came into play, and when he was established, was to provide veterans and current service members alternatives outside of the normal pharmacological means that many doctors, many prescribers typically go to as their first resort instead of their last.
Now, don't you have a history with pharmaceuticals? Is that an area you were studying in?
Yes. So when I graduated high school, I actually went to study pharmacology in college. And at some point, I got my license here in the state of Florida to practice pharmacology as a pharmacy technician, and then soon an intern. And I decided, after losing a patient, that this wasn't the route to go. And the patient that I'm describing, without breaking HIPAA, I want to correct myself before I break it. They always brought in a can of Mountain Dew with them, even though they were diabetic. And because of that habit, even though he was taking medication to control his diabetes, eventually caught up with him. And unfortunately, our job in the pharmacy is not to tell you to eat healthier, exercise, do the real things that will treat the cause of the diabetes. Our job is to sell you as many prescriptions as possible. And after a while, that weighs on you. There are many pharmacists, pharmacy interns, pharmacy technicians that leave the industry because at the end of the day, it's profit over people. So I left that industry. And I was already in the Army Reserve at this point. I've been serving for 5 years at that current moment. And I decided I needed to find something else where I can actually make a difference in the lives of my fellow citizens. And that's when Carrie, our founder, found me on LinkedIn. I wasn't really searching for a job at his old company, where he was one of the most luxurious fitness studios in Boca Raton and in South Florida, in my opinion. And he brought me on board as his general manager for his gym. And after learning about the mission for his nonprofit that he also was running, I fell in love with it immediately. I was like, this is where I needed to be. And this started me down this journey of biohacking, self improvement, healing my fellow veterans by finding tools and solutions out there in our own community that actually work and treat the causes that many veterans state that they're struggling with that cause them to lead to suicide.
That's awesome, man. And I'm sure it was frustrating just as much for you as it is for doctors, in the same sense, when they realize what they've been working on and working so hard to accomplish is just never going to be accomplished by the methods in which they were taught and what they've learned. So
Exactly.
when you realized this and you decided to step out and find something else, were you actively pursuing purpose in any way when Carrie found you?
To be honest with you, I started my own YouTube channel called the RX Saver, and I had four goals in mind. First is how can I make drugs, pharmaceuticals, cheaper for patients? How can they actually find these cheaper alternatives? Two was to inform you or inform my audience about how the pharmacy actually works. Why does it take so long to get a prescription? Why can't you find your prescription where you go? Or why are they saying no to certain medication? My third reason was to educate them that there are other things out there other than pharmaceuticals. There is natural remedies, there is food and nutrition habits that you can do to improve your own wellness. There's exercise. There's so many things out there that people don't know what they don't know. And my fourth reason was I was just frustrated. I was frustrated that my voice wasn't being heard in the company that I was working for 3 years. I was just tired and sick of it. And when I try to help patients doing the right thing, in my opinion, and what we're coming to know is the right way, I was reprimanded for it. I was called into the office and said, hey, you can't do that. You cannot help people get cheaper medication because we're losing money. I'm like, you're not really losing money because there's programs set up by the federal government for these brand name manufacturers to offer those who cannot afford medication an opportunity to live in most cases. Because sometimes once you're on a drug for a while, you're kind of stuck with it until you do fundamentally big changes. So after I started that YouTube channel, I decided that I need to find something. And I didn't know what that was. I couldn't figure it out. I was sitting at home. I was basically unemployed for about half a year. I had savings to live on, and I couldn't find my purpose. And that's when Carrie and my team stepped into my life. And I've been here ever since. I've been with the company now for 6 years.
Awesome. It's awesome. Actually, that's my personal experience with pharmaceuticals, and the reason I think the way I do and the reason I pursue modalities that I pursue is because I experienced and watched my father go from one medication to two medications to three medications to four medications that they are pretty comfortable just allowing him to be dependent upon for the rest of his life. And in my experience, it was one medication was causing something that would, in obvious fashion, cause some issue that would, be another prescription that he would be getting from a doctor. And then he'd have to go to another specialist for some of the issues that were arising from those two medications. And it was just perplexing to me how that they could stack all of these things together, knowing that they're just addressing symptoms that are probably never going to get to the root cause. And they're just going to make his life worse by adding all of these, things that
Exactly.
he's going to have to deal with.
That's what medicine has become, is treating symptomology. And for me, one coming from another country where you try to find out what's wrong with you, you try to figure out what is wrong, how best to take care of it so you can live your life. If you're constantly in a state of, okay, I'm going to fix this issue by just diminishing the pain, diminishing the symptoms you're feeling, then you're not really going to get better. And that's what, unfortunately, I'm going to say it, most companies want. Because if you're healthy, they make no money. They make none whatsoever. So keeping you in a constant state of illness is more lucrative than giving you the cure.
Yeah, by far. I think that's one thing that collectively we're all starting to realize. If we didn't witness it before in our lives, maybe through this entire COVID period where we had a lot more time around our friends and family and home and seeing what was going on, and the lack of progress kind of started to register with more of us. So hopefully our conscious awareness has been rising throughout this entire period. So at Great Team, you guys have veterans come in. Obviously, not everybody's going to be depressed or have suicidal ideation. They're going to have all kinds of different issues. And what is the process that you guys go through with each and every person that comes through? And how do you assess what they need most, what you need to educate them on, or any of the steps that you put your new friends and patients through?
Sure. So Great Team has a core belief. Prevention is not reactive. Prevention means you're ensuring that the person that comes into your space gets everything they need so they no longer feel the need that suicide is an option. The moment you feel suicide is an option to pain, to anxiety, to depression, to financial instability, to whatever is going on in your life, you're now reactive. And that's many organizations. Not saying that people won't go into that realm of thought, but there's always a pattern. There's always steps you take to get to that point. And most veterans, many of them, are crying out for help often, but they're not heard because what they hear, whether you're a provider, whether you're a therapist, whether you're a peer support personnel, you hear certain words of like, okay, he's now suicidal, let's just throw medication at him. You actually have to listen to why a veteran is stating what they're stating. Example, I'm in pain. Okay, let's find out why you're in pain. Well, my back always hurts. I always have migraines. Okay, let's go back a little bit. When did this start happening? When I was in the military, we were involved in a vehicle rollover. My buddy died, but I survived. So there's three things that could have happened. One, the person may have survivor's guilt. Their buddy is no longer with here, so now they're guilty that they survived, but they didn't. Two, it could be some kind of physical injury that was never addressed, whether it's herniated disc, muscle impingement some way, or nerve impingement, or they could have a traumatic brain injury. But once you start unwrapping the onion or peeling it back, you start to find more and more layers. And as soon as you start addressing everything that you find, you'll see veterans start to live more productive lives. They have less need to go to the VA for pharmaceutical intervention and or surgeries in most cases. So for us, when a veteran first applies through our wellness program, our new wellness program is called Operation Apollo. It's a 90-day program. We sit down one-on-one with the veteran between myself, our personal training director, Trish, and my other staff members, and we slowly jot down everything you tell us, what you told us in your application when you fill out the form for the first time, and what you tell us every meeting that we meet until your program concludes. And every time you tell us something, we then say, okay, this person is having a lot of inflammation. Now, if you have inflammation, we know what tools to use to reduce that inflammation, whether it's photobiomodulation therapy, using our energy lounger or Aspen laser Theralite 360 bed, or we can use it using portable electromagnetic induction therapy, vibroacoustic therapy, reduce that inflammation. Let's say they're not sleeping. We have tools for that. Let's say that they have issues with anxiety and depression. We also have tools for that you can provide even to take home in most cases. So slowly addressing all the various causes will improve the veteran's overall life, enjoy their civilian life that they work so hard for, that they protect the freedoms. Now they can get to reap the benefits of their service.
You touched on something there. You have a questionnaire at the beginning, and then as you go through this progression through this series, then you have different meetings and different conversations, and you open up new doors, so to speak. So do you find that a lot of people come in fight or flight, and that they aren't capable of actually addressing everything that's going on with themselves in that first meeting, and that they benefit just from the process and being able to open up about this more and more as they go?
Yes, I would say about 90% of the veterans that we see, especially our Vietnam veterans, have that issue. They can't really open up or articulate what is wrong because they don't know the words for it. They've been living so long with the conditions that it has grown to accept as part of their daily lives. So, for example, when a veteran first comes to see me, we have different types of testing that we can do. Not only can they verbalize what is wrong, we can actually physically test them here in our treatment center. So we have things such as EEG, the latest electroencephalogram by WAVI. I can map a veteran's brain in lifetime right in front of them, and I can figure out, okay, this is what's going on with your brain currently. And every 30 days, we reevaluate to make sure that what we're doing is actually working. We also have EKG and HRV testing from BrainTap. We also provide them with all other sorts of testing. We even do blood and saliva in most cases. We try to expand upon the current research that's currently inside the scientific space. So we work with Florida Atlantic University, University of Florida, University of Central Florida, universities all over the United States in order to come up with a protocol, a roadmap, if you will, to determine how best can we help veterans. What is out there, what has been scientifically studied or not studied, and expand upon that. We have actually published 2 research studies with Florida Atlantic University in the last 2 years, and have been accepted by the National Institute of Health, which is very difficult to do. And being a nonprofit that's only about 6 years old, that's unheard of. To be published in those journals, those academic journals, and actually have backing from major institutions to prove that these therapies work. Biohacking works as long as the tools, concept, and the know-how, and also the staff's empathy towards whatever population you're helping comes together and is brought to the veteran.
You also have an article consistently in Biohacking magazine, correct?
Yes, we work with Biohackers magazine. Back in 2022, we were introduced to them at a biohacking conference. Our medical director, Dr. Alan Bauman, is the #1 hair care surgeon in the world. Now, he's won several accolades. He was one of the first group of biohackers, other than Dave Asprey, to actually try different forms of therapies outside of the conventional means. He actually applies it in his practice each and every day. And because of his knowledge, his know-how, his connections, that is how we got into the Biohackers magazine. And we contributed an article every single month to show the bridge between biohacking and the military. Because one, military veterans are willing to try anything as long as they know about it. Because we know the term military grade, right? Many people want to get everything that military touches. And this is where we come into play. We say, hey, we have done research, we've done the testing, we have done the qualitative studies to determine this tool or concept actually works. And when we publicize that, our companies that we work with floods in with inquiries about their tools and technology and or supplements, and they've seen their market share and or products sales skyrise. So that's part of what we do. We want to be the leader in military care, and tooting our own horn here, we are. We're the only one in the United States doing what we're doing and seeing success. And when I say see success, we have served over 860 veterans since our founding. We have never lost one to suicide. I don't know of many organizations that can say that. We haven't lost one. And that's something amazing. That brings me joy every day. The fact is I can walk into my office and I can see the smiling vets joking around, doing their therapies, having a new lease on life that they'd never had before.
Yeah, that was actually one of the most impressive things about your facility is that you had a wide array and anything and everything I've encountered in other biohacking facilities, but also you didn't have some of the stuff that was somewhat maybe not working. Maybe it was a little bit of hype in the marketplace, and for one reason or another, people started to see through it, or it wasn't producing any results. And I didn't see any of that on your property at all.
100%.
No pseudoscience allowed.
Exactly. So we have a program called Great Team Nexus. That is our certification program. So that was started back in 2021 by my staff and myself in order to validate tools' efficacy. There's so many tools and concepts and supplements out there that they say, hey, this actually works by doing this. Well, we want to find that out. So companies will send us their tools, their supplements, or their therapies, and we will try them here ourselves. Every single one of my staff members, including myself, will run through these protocols multiple times to find out, hey, does this actually work? And then we have a group of veterans who have graduated our program that will also test these tools to find out, do they actually work? Now, there are some that we have to send back and say, hey, this doesn't really work, or it didn't do as you stated it would. Now, those are hard conversations, but we will have them because we have integrity. That's something that they teach us in the military, is to have integrity and honor. So if we try a tool and we don't think it's effective, we're going to let you know. So good, bad, or indifferent, we let the companies know. And if we really find that your tool is making a difference in the lives of a veteran, you will be part of our Great Team Nexus program, and your tool will be here at our facility being used every day. And we like to show it off to our supporters, potential supporters, and those are in our community who want to learn more about what Great Team does and how we have revolutionized military care.
You're talking about a ton of work, an absolute ton of work. I mean, not only are you assessing the individuals and you're putting them through the modalities, but you're keeping such stringent records, and you're really just gamifying some things so that you know you're not dealing with placebo effect, you're dealing with actual real results across the board for more than one person. And that in itself is, I mean, I commend it completely, because if we had a little bit more of that across all the biohacking facilities, maybe biohacking would catch on across the country a little bit more commercially, and more people would get into it and save themselves the road down pharmaceutical intervention or traditional allopathic intervention, which we are learning and we should know is not really going to produce the results we want or we could achieve.
Exactly. Just like most companies, sometimes it's profit over people. And when we find that, you're just not one of our Nexus program. You're just not going to be one of our partners because we don't believe in what you do and you don't share our mission to heal those who have served.
Yeah. So you said veterans will try anything that's military grade, and they'll really give it a go. I want to know what the results are on cryo versus that cold plunge you got. What
Sure.
are people getting into, and what are they really enjoying the most?
So those are two of our newest therapies. We've been researching for years. Now we just finally acquired those two therapies. So cryotherapy was provided by CryoBuilt, and our cold water immersion therapy was provided by Chill Shark. They're a brand new company that just came out on the market. So now when somebody's talking about cryotherapy versus cold water immersion, I have done both, and so most of our team. They're very similar in effect. Now, I've tried cryotherapy. I've seen the same inflammation reduction effect, sports improvement effects, as well as the clarity, the mental clarity, because the dopamine is being released, norepinephrine is being released. Now, when I do cold water immersion, the same thing happens, but I don't like getting wet. Some people do. So we have our facility currently split 50-50. Some love the cold water immersion therapy, and some people hate it, and some people love the cryotherapy, and some people hate it. It all depends on a self preference, but I believe they do the same, except one can go a little bit longer than 3 minutes. Usually cryotherapy goes for a maximum of 3 minutes and 30 seconds before you get frostbite. Cold water immersion therapy, you can go up to 20-30 minutes. After a certain point, your body doesn't actually have any health benefits according to the studies. But we're going to be doing a study with Chill Shark to determine what types of effects at different lengths of time and temperature will affect PTSD, sports performance, inflammation reduction in the body using the biomarkers from your blood and saliva.
Now, I've read some great studies on that, actually, and I had a guest on the podcast not long ago from university out in Arizona. And it's kind of in, I don't even know what the word for it is. It's mind-boggling as to what some people have shown and the different ways that you can actually use it, for whether you're using a pre-cooling and then exercise, or whether you're using it just for inflammation. And the ice bath world, I think we need more and tons of more research on it, just to see what's really the most benefit for most people across the board. And it's going to change varied on different communities, different individuals, what you're dealing with, for sure. Have you noticed any psychological before and during differences in the two modalities, whether people would refuse to do one after they've done it, or whether or not they were open to them both after they've done it? Any fear factor that you can note?
So veterans are interesting. We're very fearless, especially those who served in the special forces. So once a veteran has experienced both, they'll typically continue to do it because they feel that mental clarity, they feel the physical results, so they'll keep doing it no matter what, even though it feels like pins and needles in the cold water immersion. And right now, we're very competitive people, we veterans. So right now we're competing to see who can last the longest at the coldest temperature. We're not even doing it for our health benefits anymore. It's just to see who is going to wuss out before the other. So currently our lead-in time is 12 minutes at 39 degrees. So I'll try and beat that, but right now my record is 2 minutes.
And what are the rules on that? You got to put your hands down in it? Are you up to your neck? Are there any rules about?
After doing more research, we determined and set the protocol that it's below the neckline. That's where the water should rest. If it's above your shoulders, you're missing that opportunity to get some of that therapeutic effect to the brain.
Yeah. So the person that went 12 minutes, they have heavy experience in this, or is this something new for them
It
as
was their
well?
first time yesterday, believe it or not. So they've never done it before. They're like, oh, I can keep going. Now, keep in mind, this veteran is actually from New York. So he's used to colder weather. Me being from Jamaica, cold is not our thing. So the fact that it can even last 2 minutes is very surprising.
All right. So have you done any research on Wim Hof
I have
breathing?
not.
Okay, Wim Hof as a preparation for cold plunging is absolutely, especially if you're just going in this for the personal benefit to see how long you can last. Don't tell anybody else about it yet. Go check out Wim Hof, do a couple of rounds of that, do your ice bath, and then get back with me before you tell everybody what your secret is. Because I guarantee you, I
I'll
guarantee
definitely
you,
do
it'll
it.
change your
I've been
result.
looking into breathing techniques for the cold water because I hyperventilate. As soon as I get in, I know that it's actually exhausting me faster, but the moment my feet hit the water, it's like, and there's videos we record ourselves doing it, and it's kind of embarrassing. If you ever gone
Well,
online.
there's a lot to be gained from that though, because there's research on the shiver. If the shiver sets in with you early, that you should actually shiver it out, and that you're actually releasing trauma that could be stored in your own system during that process. And during the first minute that you're going into the ice, everybody has that fight or flight, that reaction of wanting to get out. So if you start to lower your heart rate on your own and drop your HR, just drop your heart rate and do that first deep exhale, your physiological control is going through the roof just from that exercise. So that was the only thing I found that was different going cold plunges and cryotherapy is I never really had to talk myself into cryotherapy. It was just like, oh yeah, I know it's going to be cold. I'm going to go in there for 3 minutes. There is a timer I can watch. The cold plunge though, on some days I would see that ice and I would have this psychological thing like I really do not want to do this today.
Oh yeah,
And I had to talk myself into it. I had to silence that voice inside me that was resisting. It was just one of those processes I went through personally, and I was like, oh, I think every
yeah.
biohacker needs to go through this.
Exactly. That's what happened to me. Sometimes I put my feet in and I just stand there and just contemplate life, and then I'll get my arms down. Okay, I'm almost there. Okay, now it's up to my chest. Now I just got to get to my neck. Okay, the neck is here. Okay, I'm just lay here, and then peaceful thoughts.
So, have you heard of the mammalian dive response?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had no idea what that was in the beginning. And my first 6 months of ice baths was never, I would never drop my face into the ice. I would never do any of these things. I had to do the breath work and then the breathing hack to deal with that first, 30 to 60 seconds. And that was my way. Now, Huberman and everybody else in the marketplace is telling everybody, oh, it's a dive reflex. If you put your head under the water first and then come up, your body's response is completely different, which maybe that's something you want to play with.
I got to work my way up to that one. I'm bald, and I feel the cold wind always. Just imagine coming up from in the cold water immersion doing that.
It's wild how it works. It's wild how it works, though. It's actually just calming your nerves a little bit because your body doesn't know if you're actually going to dive and if you're going to need to hold your breath for a long period of time. It didn't make sense to me when I first heard about it either, and I was glad that I went through all the processes first with the breath. That way, I can just get in. I don't even have to put my arms in every time and my head or any of that. I just get in there, sit there, take those couple first deep breaths, and then the deep exhale. It's the dumping of that O2 that I just feel like, all right, now I'm relaxed and I can talk. And I film a lot of mine too. I did that for a while just to have the responsibility of doing it, and then really holding myself accountable to do the ice bath every day. Otherwise, I wasn't going to stick with it. And I think it's one of those things that if you make yourself accountable for long enough, you'll get into that ice and everybody will look at you like, what's going on with this guy and how can he do that? And it is one of those things you just have to stick with. Exactly. So I want to see the results. I want to see the results of this challenge in house over there.
I'll let you know as soon as it's concluded. Right now, we're all working down, so we're at 39 degrees. We'll see if we go to 38.
I was going to say, how low are you going to go with temperature?
As low as we can go before you start feeling get any negative side effects.
I don't think you're going to find the negative side effects. You're just going to see the time doesn't go as long.
Exactly.
Morozco Forge. Morozco Forge. It's an ice bath company, and I want to send you the link to the previous podcast. Their doctor, Seeger, you'd probably have an awesome conversation with him about it, but he's got a book. He wrote an entire book off of research that they put into this, and it was really fascinating to see what the results are. Obviously, regular athletic recovery, you can get the results in 40 to 50, but the psychological benefits of going into the low 30s is somewhat incredible.
There we go. I can't wait. I'm always willing to learn more about other therapies and tools, especially expanding upon the ones that we already have, because I don't know anything. I may be medical, but there's certain things that I'm still learning myself.
We're all going to learn forever, hopefully. And that's hopefully the reason we all ended up in this, this world that we're in. With that said, you have a ton of other modalities there that nobody else gets to use. You have things there that are not on the market yet. You got things that you're not allowed to talk about on this podcast yet, but you also see results and play with things that none of us have really experienced. So what are you really thrilled to put yourself into every time you get to the office, or however many times per week? What are you prioritizing?
So, my favorite device right now is a series of 3 therapies. We have an All-Core 360, which works in strengthening the core muscles, the pelvic floor, in order to have a strong, stable foundation. As we all know in the biohacking, having a stable foundation is very important. The next therapy that I like to use is my photobiomodulation therapy bed by Aspen Laser. It's 360 degrees of red light and infrared light therapy. I use it for sports performance because I'm still in the military. So every month I put my uniform on and I go and serve our country. Now, sometimes my body's beaten down, and after using that device, I'm ready and raring to go for whatever life throws at me. And the final one that I love using is by PureWave Technologies. It's their portable electromagnetic induction mat. Now, when we got this 3 years ago, it was a game changer. Now, when I say it took my recovery from spectacular to extraordinary, it's no joke. My recovery time from activities used to be maybe 1 or 2 days. Now, within 24 hours, I'm good to go and hit the same muscle group again without fearing an injury. It also helps with any type of stress that I may have. It helps with grounding. It helps with all kind of other bodily functions that typically we neglect because we're busy, we're working, we're trying to live life, we're trying to help others. So having that one tool in conjunction with the other ones I mentioned before has made my athletic performance, my personal life, even better.
Now, do you train yourself when you go in? Do you work hit the weights normally? I know the All-Core 360 is a full body. You just put me through it. Two episodes ago on the podcast, I was talking to the inventor and he challenged me with it. I went up and met you. That's how I met you guys. And it was absolutely phenomenal. I can't speak highly enough about it, but I did do other training the next day. You said not to train. I went and did jujitsu. I went and did my other training, and I definitely felt it. I felt it. And I put myself through intense recovery as well. But are you doing other modalities that kind of work you out in other ways besides the All-Core?
Yes. So I'm fortunate that I'm here at this company and we have amazing personal trainers. Our founder actually trains me. Now, when it comes to personal training knowledge, I have some that I've learned over the course of my military time, but it's nothing compared to having someone who knows the function of each muscle group, each joint, like a personal trainer. So he trains me each and every day. So to make sure that I hit my milestones, I ensures that I train in general, because if you're running a company and or you're just working in general and have a family, I have a wife and a son, it gets in the way. And he'll be right beside me. We're doing emails and or preparing for the next day, and he's like, "Hey, David, it's time to go train," and I'll be like, "Oh, okay." And once he starts, he gets me in the routine. He's like, "Okay, we're going to be hitting chest today. This is what we're going to be doing." He does it with me, so we're training at the same time, and he corrects my form and everything. So personal training is a big thing for me. Also, one of the tools I'm not allowed to tell you about because we're the only one that has it, it actually helped improve my overall glute, hamstrings, and overall lower body strengthening. I can't really give you what it is or what it does because I'm not allowed
Let's
to
just
yet, but it's
let's
phenomenal.
let's just awesome.
Yeah, let's just say that. Hopefully, it'll be commercially available in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that was incredible, and thank you again for that as well. I definitely
Sure.
felt that. I felt that as much as I felt anything from the all core, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. We're coming up with a name for it. It has not been named yet. So once we
We
name it, it'll
will
be
circle
fantastic.
back.
I can't wait for your audience to see the launch of this product. It's revolutionary.
So, do you have any other new tech that's on its way to you that you're excited to try out? Or are you just consistently shopping things and looking at things and trying things out? And what are you excited about?
So we actually have one new device that will be here on January 15th, and we've been waiting for it for 6 months. I can tell you what it is. It's called the OxFit. So the OxFit XP1. So think about a Smith machine,
Hmm.
right? You can do multiple exercises on that machine. But the one that we're getting right now, it has multiple functionality that is AI driven, that can correct your form in live time, can help increase or decrease weight, whether you're doing it isometrically or you're working on extension or flexion. It can also be programmed just to one person per training program in order to improve their overall body strengthening. That usually when you do a squat, for example, everyone has a different body mechanic because we're all born differently and genetically made. So this device can actually map out what is your proper form and teach that to you each and every second of the way. And if you're doing it incorrectly, it'll say, "Hey, you need to adjust." It'll adjust the weight on one side to make sure that you're well balanced, you're not strengthening one side over another. So we can't wait to get this device. We've been waiting for a while.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys had a lot of devices there that I hadn't seen, and you won't see in normal gyms either. That land 360-degree landmine was pretty interesting as well.
Yes, that's from Move Strong. So they made something called an omnibar. So when people work with a landmine system, it's typically a plate on the floor that you load up, and you can do different types of exercises. But if you think about someone who's a little older and or with a back injury, that may be a little difficult and or can further aggravate the injury. This device was specifically made to be multifunctional, easy to adjust according to height, depending on the exercise, depending on how much weight you can handle at any given point. So you can be doing a squat to a shoulder raise, whatever you need to do, you can do it with this one device.
Incredible, incredible. All right, getting back to Great Team. You guys have an extraordinary mission, and you just had a gala. You just had a fundraiser at a prestigious location here in South Florida. I'm sure most of the country is aware of what Mar-a-Lago is, but tell us how that went and how successful it was, and what was it like hanging with President Trump.
Sure. So this is our actual second gala that we did. It was our holiday affair at Mar-a-Lago. It's called America First. So it was started by a group of supporters who wanted to give back to the military community and doing so through Grey Team. So we held our first one on April of this year. But the demand was so high to have a second one, we decided, okay, we're going to do a holiday gala to bring everybody together to raise support and raise funds for Grey Team to continue our mission to increase our capacity. Because we have an extensive waiting list of veterans waiting to get in our program, but we're only limited by funds. So this go around, it was spectacular. We managed to raise $1.4 million. Now, all of that goes back to the veterans. None of it goes into our pockets or into any other type of weird funds that people will see when you look at certain charities. It all goes back to the veterans because that is what we're here for. And it was spectacular. The president did make a short visit to our VIP reception, but it wasn't about our upcoming president or incoming president. It was more about the veterans. The entire night was about raising awareness for the men and women who laid down their lives and or raised their right hand to say, I will support and defend the Constitution from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And that's why we were there that night. It's a beautiful venue. We're non-political, and we try to keep it that way. None of the rhetoric was about the president or anything politics-wise. It was just raising support for the men and the women who we should be taking care of. They took care of us hopefully in the battlefield.
Yeah, hopefully supporting our veterans is a nonpartisan issue, and hopefully we can all get behind that 100%.
Thank you for asking. It was an incredible night, and I can't wait to do it again. We'll be hosting it again on December 11, 2025 at Mar-a-Lago. We also have another event coming up at the Boca Raton Resort here in Boca Raton on April 5th, 2025. And that is
that's your flagship gala. Is information for both those? Yeah, is information for both of those events on your website?
Yes, sir. It's on greatteam.org. It's also on their own independent website, www.theyarnotbulletproof.com and www.americafirstgala.
America First.
Yes, sir.
All right. So if you are a listener of the show and you want to support Great Team, you can go straight to their website or one of those. How else can people get involved or follow what you're doing? I'm sure that there's a magazine or two you're going to have articles in, but how can they really tune in to see what the progress of Great Team is about and where it's at?
To follow our progress, we have an extensive Facebook that we have. So going to Great Team HQ is our Facebook handle and our Instagram handle. There you can see live updates about what we're doing each and every day, whether it's getting new tools and technology, evaluating them from veteran stories and progress. You can also just go to our website, greatteam.org. We have everything on there, from our financial statements down to the very nitty-gritty about what our strategic plan is for the next 5, 10, 20 years, so on and so forth, because we want to remain 100% transparent with those who support us or those who are planning to support us. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or my team by calling 561-203-3815.
Awesome, David. So Great Team HQ at Instagram or Facebook, greatteam.org for your website.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining me. We could get into biohacking modalities and different equipment and things that we can have fun with for a long time. But really, today I was really happy to have you on to really highlight the mission that you guys are on, because I watched a few of those testimonials when I was there with you and the team, and it's moving. It's really sincerely moving when you see a veteran who says to you point blank, look, I don't know what I would have done without Great Team. I don't know what I would have done without this personal connection, without this help with things that he wasn't or they weren't going to get help with anywhere else. So you're doing something special, you're doing something specific, and God bless your souls for it. We're grateful for you. And once again, thank you for joining me, and thank you for sharing the message.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Any way to share our mission brings us joy and gives us constant exposure. So thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you. Welcome to the Josh Button Podcast, where we discuss health, wellness, and outliers from society.